Is Tulum in crisis right now? Where are all of the tourists? Are tourists and native Mexicans boycotting coming to Tulum at the moment? Maybe you guys watching this video have a trip planned to Tulum in the next days, weeks and months and have seen the news, have heard the stories. Why is nobody visiting Tulum right now? Well, today guys, we are going to dive into what the situation is here in Tulum currently. All of the information I've gathered in this video is by, of course, speaking to the locals and local business owners about their growing concerns of the current situation and state of Tulum right now. I'm also going to share with you some scenes to give you a clear picture of what the current situation is from the downtown area, the restaurants, cafes, bars, the hotel zone, and of course, Tulum's main attraction, the beach. What is happening on Tulum Beach right now? What is the current situation with El Sargasso, the algae? When is that going to clear? If anybody's got any additional information, maybe you're in Tulum right now, or maybe you're visiting Tulum and have questions, please leave a comment down below so we can help each other out and spread the awareness. That being said, guys, let's crack on with this video. Vamos. Okay then guys, is Tulum in crisis right now? There is currently a lot of hype across various social media platforms and news outlets up and down the country saying, you know, Tulum is dead, there is no tourism, Tulum is sinking, some would say. Now, before we start, guys, I want to say, you know, I love Tulum. I'm a big fan of Tulum. I've spent several months here over the past few years since my Mexico adventure began. For anybody who doesn't know, I've been to 10 states currently in Mexico by myself. That will be ramped up to 12 states by the end of this trip. I'm going to be visiting Puebla and also Mazatlan in Sinaloa. But Tulum for me, guys, is kind of like a base. You know, I always revert back to Tulum. I love the vibe, I love the people, you know, I love the outdoor lifestyle. Of course, the weather is really, really good as well. I love the aesthetics, you know, the whole jungle theme, the whole jungle vibe. And of course, the beach, guys, the beach when it's all nice and clean is absolutely paradise. And of course, the big one for me, guys, I love to feed the cats. There are a lot of stray cats here. If you want to follow me on my cat feeding adventures across Mexico, you can on my Instagram page, Cats of Mexico. But guys, I've been here for nearly 1 month, okay? I left the UK in September and I will be here until the end of October before I venture off to La Ciudad de Mexico por Dia de Muertos. So I have a very clear picture, you know, of what is happening here right now. October is technically still low season, okay? Temporada baja. Some would even consider it off season. However, I was here last October and I can assure you there was absolutely a lot more activity and a lot more people here than there currently is today. So I'm currently staying in a place called Diariesofanaddict, which is kind of like a small area with lots of local native Mexicans live here. Of course, there are lots of condo complexes and it's around 10 minutes from the city center. I was in this exact location this time last year in a hotel just over the road to the right of me here. There was at least 30 to 40 tourists within that hotel, okay? Americans, Canadians, Australia, Europeans, British, etc., etc. Okay, there was a lot more things going on. There was a lot more people in the city center. There was a lot more people certainly on the beach, and the beach itself was in a far better condition than at the moment. Right now, in this very complex I am in now, I am the only tourist here. There's 2 other Mexican guys who live here full time because they work in Tulum, but I am the only tourist in this facility right now, which really is quite incredible, okay? That is the situation. An important point I want to touch on, guys. COVID. During the COVID pandemic, Mexico was one of the only countries to have its borders open. And I can remember it in detail, okay? You had lots of fitness influencers coming here, people who make travel content coming here, and it was basically the destination of choice. There was an influx of tourism across Mexico, but especially in areas like Tulum, Playa del Carmen, etc. So Mexico basically made hay whilst the sun was shining, shall we say. Since the COVID pandemic has ended, every single year that has passed, So I'm told there has been a decline in tourism, okay? Until now, where we reach this very point, this is now the worst period Tulum has experienced since the COVID pandemic. I've been speaking to lots of business owners around Tulum, around the city centre, and one business owner said to me, this is by far the worst period he has ever experienced in regards of tourism, in regards of clientele and customers he has ever had, and he has been here since 2008. So let's dive into the current situation, guys. I'm going to show you some scenes of how Tulum is looking, and of course explore some of the reasons as to why it is so quiet right now. Now let's start with the downtown area, guys. This is normally a very lively place indeed. Okay, now this was filmed around midday over the last few days, and this will demonstrate a clear picture of how things are looking in Tulum right now. Now, as you can see, it is extremely quiet. The cafes, bars, restaurants, souvenir shops, they are empty. There is very few to no people at all in them right now. And I can remember this time last year, guys, going into cafes, to do, some online work. It would quite literally be filled with many digital nomads, going about their day, doing their work. And right now, guys, there is literally 1 to 2 people in these cafes at best. So very, very concerning indeed. This demonstrates a clear picture of how things are there at the minute. Let's talk about the hotel situation, guys. So as I mentioned, I am the only person in this entire complex, the only tourist in this entire complex right now, which is deeply concerning, for landlords, okay? They need to make money, they need to sustain their business. And I would guesstimate right now, I would say, 80% of these condos must be empty. You can look over the road in the hotels and condos from where I'm staying. They are empty. You can see through the windows, there is nobody staying there. Okay, so it really is a growing concern. One thing that I would absolutely call out, people have been sending me, reels of people, businesses, I should say, sorry, advertising right now in Tulum, their Paradise Beach destination. And if you are a couple, planning, or maybe you are planning on coming to Tulum in the next days and weeks, and you are going to the beach area, the Paradise Beach zone, you're going to get to that hotel. Not only are you going to be paying, £3,000 to £5,000 probably for the week. I did a little bit of research yesterday at one of the major resorts there, and it was anywhere between, 135 USD right the way up to 800 USD per night. You're going to get there and you're going to be extremely disappointed. The hotel itself will be nice, but as soon as you step out onto the beach, which is the main tourist attraction of Tulum, you're going to be extremely disappointed because of the situation with the algae, El Sargasso, which is what we're going to talk about now. Now, of course, guys, Tulum Beach, as I said, is the main attraction. And normally, when it is clean, it is absolutely beautiful. The water is crystal clear, the sand is nice and white, and really is a Paradise Beach destination. But an important point to mention, guys, the situation with El Sargasso, this algae, it is not unique to Tulum or Playa del Carmen. It is across the entire Caribbean. You can research this yourself. It is across many different countries. But as you can see, guys, from these pictures, the situation with El Sargasso, it really is unattractive indeed. Now, on a positive, the beach itself, the sand, has improved slightly over the last couple of weeks, but the situation with the sea, it is really, really bad indeed. I would guess, guys, that this stuff is going out at least 50 meters from the edge of the beach, okay? There must be millions of tons of this stuff, and when is this going to clear? God only knows. One guy said to me, he reckons at least into December, okay? So it really is a turn off, for so many people. If you're a native Mexican, coming from, La Ciudad de Mexico, and you want a beach paradise destination, of course, why would you come when the situation with the beach is currently like this, okay? So that is the situation with El Sargasso. Another important point to mention regarding the beach, guys, the access. People become really, really frustrated with the access to the beach. Now, there actually is access to the Paradise Beach destinations through certain beach clubs, as I have shown in previous Tulum videos, if you know where to look. But if you're not familiar, of course, with Tulum, it is really, really frustrating. You come here to travel, to explore, and you simply can't find access. And it really is an annoyance, I must say. Now, I have seen this has been mentioned, even by the President of Mexico, Claudia, saying there needs to be clear signage regarding the beach access. But if you're unfamiliar or unaware with how to access the beach, you're going to end up paying. You're going to end up paying a beach club. You have to pay for a bed, maybe even a minimum spend, and it really is frustrating as hell. Of course, you have the other option to go to, of course, Jaguar Park, which is another private area, and of course, again, you're going to have to pay. I think it's around 20 to 25 USD per person, again, which of course you are bleeding more money. And beaches should be made free and accessible to everyone, and I know that this most definitely is a growing concern. Okay guys, so let's talk about prices in general across many different areas. Now, of course, prices for natives coming to Tulum, it is extremely expensive destination. I believe Tulum, along with Los Cabos, is one of the most expensive areas to come within Mexico. But of course, Tulum, guys, is a tourist destination. It's driven by tourism. So of course, you're going to expect to pay, higher prices indeed. But let's cover different topics. Let's look at accommodation. Now, in my opinion, guys, accommodation in Tulum is still most definitely affordable. I paid £650 libras for this condo. I have a huge condo. I have a swimming pool, gym upstairs. I've got a big separate bedroom, queen size bed. I have a private kitchen, living area over there, bathroom, shower, etc. £650 for the entire month, including Wi-Fi, including water and a washing machine. So really, really good indeed. So accommodation, in my opinion, is affordable for travelers. Of course, as I said, for native Mexicans who earn considerably less, it is going to still be a little bit more on the expensive side. That is the situation with accommodation. Let's talk about food, guys. Food in general in Tulum is expensive. There is no question. Now, you really are quite limited when it comes to, food shopping in Tulum. There are a couple of, major supermarkets, Chadrawi, Super Aki. I believe there's another one further on, but I can't remember the name. But the prices, guys, in my opinion, Chadrawi pretty much is like for like, as if you were shopping in the UK, say in Aldi, for example. When it comes to things like milk, eggs, bread, it pretty much is like for like. Now, of course, for Europeans, for people from the United States, that is doable, acceptable. But of course, again, for natives, it is expensive. Some of the things in Chadrawi, guys, are ridiculous. I'm going to show you some scenes right now. This bag of granola, guys, that I'm showing you, nearly 250 pesos. That's nearly £10 for a bag of granola. The current exchange rate is around 25 pesos to 1, so you can do the maths yourself. Salmon is expensive. You're going to be talking between £5 and £8 for a fillet of salmon. Steak is expensive. The New York strip there ranges from, 10 to 20 pounds. So for a local Mexican, and even for tourists, guys, this is expensive, okay? But as I say, the vast majority of food, in Chadrawi, for this example, is pretty much like for like. If you think you're coming to Tulum, Mexico in general, and you're going to live very cheaply, guys, think again. Mexico in general is nowhere near as cheap as it used to be. You're also very limited here when it comes to things, like street food. There are a couple of vendors at best, but when you go to, Mexico City, you can pick up tacos, 4 or 5 tacos for literally a couple of quid. You simply do not have that option here in Tulum. I would also express, for food vendors, restaurants, they have told me, when they buy their food now from their suppliers, they are paying considerably more than they were a few years ago, which of course spills out onto their menus. So you're going to be paying the money, guys, if you are eating out as well. Let's talk about electric. I want to touch on electric because many landlords and the owner of this condo, has said The prices for electric in Tulum is ridiculous. Now, I'm not sure of how the rates work here, but every single hotel and hostel I've stayed in over the last couple of years, you know, they always have signs, you know, please make sure you turn off the lights. Please make sure you turn off the AC. The prices are so high, and they can actually fine you if you leave the electric on, the lights on, the aircon on, because they simply cannot afford to sustain, you know, these high prices, okay? Which of course you should be doing anyway, but they do remind you of that. Let's talk about transport, guys. Transport in Tulum, again, is expensive. Now, there are cheaper options, but you know, when it comes to taxis quite literally take the biscuit when it comes to charging, you know, certainly tourists. You know, you're going to be paying 500 pesos for, you know, a ride down to the beach, the Paradise Beach, where all the beach clubs are. That's one way. It's about £20, 25, I would guess, USD. You know, so that is expensive. And, you know, as you can see from these scenes, guys, you know, taxis are empty. Nobody are using the taxis at all. It is ridiculous prices, you know, it's unaffordable for so many people. Now, of course, you have other options. You can rent a bike like I have myself, bicicleta. But again, guys, you're going to be paying around 200 pesos is the average to rent a bike for the day. That's around £8, you know, so that is expensive. You know, you can haggle, you can get a bargain if you know, maybe speak Spanish, or you're able to, you know, negotiate well. I paid around 2,000 pesos for my bike right now for the entire month, which is around 80 quid. So, you know, it still is expensive, guys. You know, all these things add up. There are other options. You can get collectivos, which is kind of like a minivan. But again, they are very unpredictable. Certain times of the day, they will not pick you up. If they see you're a tourist, they will just drive straight past you. I've had it many times indeed. Let's talk about safety. Safety in Tulum. Now, guys, I am not aware of any safety concerns in Tulum. Maybe you guys know something different. I, for one, feel perfectly safe walking around Tulum. You know, I walk through Diariesofanaddict. Some would consider, you know, this area quite slummy. I've heard many people say, you know, there's people living in, you know, wooden houses and kind of shack kind of things. But guys, very friendly people in my opinion. I have not had one bad thing to say. They always wave, they always smile. I have many conversations with them in Spanish. And, you know, I'm not aware personally of any safety concerns for tourists. Of course, there are issues, you know, with cartel. I've seen, you know, I believe there was a shooting here not too long ago. But, you know, this is kind of normal activity, guys, is it not, across Mexico? So I'm not aware of any safety concerns. If you know anything different, please comment down below to help each other out. And that is it, guys. Just to finish off, you know, I am hopeful that, you know, Tulum order will be restored, tourism will be restored across December and January. And, you know, many businesses have said to me, you know, December and January really is make or break for so many. You know, that is when, you know, that is the normal influx of tourism will happen. That is when prices are heightened considerably. That is when the workers earn their tips, propinas. And, you know, we will see. I will be back here in late November, so I'm going to be really curious, you know, to just what the situation is. But is Tulum in crisis? I do not believe it is in crisis per se. There has certainly been a decline in tourism here, which of course has affected businesses. And, you know, when it comes to, you know, will businesses survive? I guess it all comes down to, you know, how much money you have to, you know, sustain your business during these low periods, you know, of customers, of clientele. But I really hope they do survive. Tulum is an amazing place. I hope tourism will be restored. If anybody has any additional information, or if I've missed anything out, as I said, please comment down below so we can help each other out. Are you coming to Tulum? Are you concerned? Do you want to change your plans? Are you still going to come? Any question, guys, or thoughts, please comment down below. I will see you in the next video. Ciao.